The dining room smelled of roasted lamb and fresh bread. Candles flickered against the cream walls, shadows stretching long across the tablecloth. I had set this dinner to bring the family together, to show them the home I had worked years to build. Instead, I watched my brother Armin lean back in his chair, smile smugly, and say words that turned the air cold. "This house is mine now," he said. The fork slipped from my fingers. It clattered against the plate, louder than it should have been. My parents froze. My cousins looked away, but no one spoke. It was as if the walls themselves had heard and decided to betray me, too. I felt the blood leave my face. My heart hammered in my chest. The house around me blurred. Every inch of this place carried my sweat, my sacrifices, my nights of working 2 jobs. And now, my own brother announced his claim as if he were announcing dessert. "Excuse me?" My voice shook. Armin chuckled. "You heard me. Dad promised me this house years ago. Everyone knows it. You've been living here on borrowed time." The silence that followed was suffocating. I searched for a lifeline, for someone to defend me. My mother's hands trembled around her glass. My father avoided my eyes. My aunt shifted uncomfortably, as though she wanted to disappear into her chair. "Dad," my whisper broke. "Is this true?" He cleared his throat, still not looking at me. "Armin has always been responsible." It made sense. The word slammed into me. Responsible. I wanted to laugh. Responsible. This was the brother who borrowed money and never paid back, who charmed his way into favors and left others in ruin. Yet now, he was being handed my life. The lamb on the table had gone cold. My appetite was gone, replaced by bile rising in my throat. I remembered the nights I went hungry to save for this down payment, the years of rejection before the bank finally approved me, the tears when the keys touched my palm. All those memories were being stolen in front of me. Armin raised his glass again, smirking. To family. And to the house that's finally mine. The sound of glasses clinking was deafening. My hand tightened under the table, nails digging into my palm. Rage boiled inside me, hotter than the candles. I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table. But instead, I forced myself to breathe. My silence wasn't weakness. It was calculation. Armin thought he had won. He thought I was cornered, humiliated, powerless. But he had no idea what I was about to do. And the next move would not just shock him, it would destroy him. But that wasn't the worst part. I sat frozen at that table, my fingers pressed so hard into my lap that I thought they might leave bruises. No one defended me. Not my father, not my mother, not even the relatives who had eaten at my table countless times. Their silence was the loudest betrayal of all. My brother Armin leaned back, chewing slowly, savoring both the lamb and my humiliation. His eyes flicked toward me with that same smugness I had known since childhood. That look. I'd seen it when he grabbed the last piece of bread off my plate as a child, when he whispered lies to our parents that left me punished while he walked away clean. He'd always taken what was mine. Tonight was no different. I couldn't stop the memories from rising. I remembered the winter when I was 12, when I asked my parents for new shoes because mine had holes. They shook their heads, saying money was tight. But the very next day, Armand strutted home with a brand new leather jacket. I swallowed my disappointment then, just as I was being forced to swallow it now, or the time in college, when I worked late nights waitressing just to pay rent. Armin borrowed half my savings, promising he'd return it within weeks. He never did. Instead, I saw him flashing new watches on his wrist, bought with the hours of my exhaustion. And my parents? They called him clever. "He knows how to get what he wants," my father said once, pride in his voice. But what about me? What about the one who kept everything afloat, quietly, without recognition? As I stared at my untouched plate, my chest tightened. They had always chosen him, always excused him, and now They were letting him take the only place that was truly mine. I felt like I was 12 again, begging for shoes while my brother posed in his new jacket. The same ache, the same unfairness. Only now, it wasn't shoes. It was my home, my blood, my life. I pushed back from the table. The chair legs scraped against the floor, cutting through the tension. Every eye turned toward me, but not a single one held shame, only discomfort, as if I was the problem for refusing to sit silently while my brother stripped me bare. "I need air," I muttered. The hallway felt colder than the dining room. I pressed my back against the wall, heart pounding. Rage and heartbreak tangled inside me until I couldn't tell them apart. I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear and never look back. But deep down, another part of me stirred. A part that had been quiet for too long. I wasn't that girl anymore, the one who let him take everything. This time, I would take something back. And when I did, Armin would never forget it. Then came the moment that changed everything. I stood in the hallway, but I could still hear them. Forks clinking, muted laughter, even my brother's arrogant voice filling the room as though nothing had happened. The world had tilted for me, but for them, it was just another evening. When I finally returned to the table, no one met my eyes. My seat felt colder, emptier, as though I no longer belonged in my own home. "Sit, Beta," my mother whispered, her hand barely brushing my arm. She didn't look at me. She kept her gaze fixed on her plate, ashamed, afraid, or maybe indifferent. I couldn't tell anymore. Armin smirked, lifting another bite of lamb. "Glad you're back. You should get used to this, hosting in my house." His words stung, but what cut deeper was my father's soft chuckle, as if he found it amusing. I had waited years for his approval, fought battles alone just to hear pride in his voice. And now, the only time he laughed was when my brother mocked me. I wanted to scream, "Where were you when I worked late nights? Where were you when I built this life alone?" But no one would answer. Instead, I stared at them. My family. And for the first time, they felt like strangers sitting at my table. Their silence was louder than Armin's cruelty. Every second that passed confirmed what I had always feared. I was alone, even among them. Armin leaned forward, elbows on the table, his voice casual but sharp enough to slice through me. "By the way, I've already talked to Dad about moving in soon. You'll have to start packing." The audacity left me breathless. My fork shook in my hand, scraping against the plate. My throat tightened, but no words came out. My aunt finally cleared her throat. "Armin, maybe we should discuss this later." He cut her off with a glare. "No, it's better out in the open. Everyone should know. This house is mine." I looked at her, desperate, but she dropped her eyes. Coward, just like the rest of them. My mother's hand reached across the table, not toward me, but toward Armin's wrist. "Beta, don't be so harsh," she murmured, as if I wasn't the one being destroyed, as if the only one who deserved softness was him. My chest ached, a hollow space expanding until it felt like it might swallow me whole. And then, somewhere between their silence and his smirk, something hardened inside me. I realized I couldn't wait for justice. No one at this table would hand it to me. If I wanted to keep my house, my life, my dignity, I would have to fight for it. And when I fought, I wouldn't fight small. Because if Armin thought he could humiliate me here, in my own home, then he had no idea what storm I was about to unleash. But first, I had to smile. I lifted my glass, forced my lips into a curve, and said the words that set everything in motion. "Then let's make this fair." And that's when the game truly began. I raised my glass higher, letting the candlelight catch the rim, my lips still curved though my chest burned. "If this house is yours," I said calmly, "then surely you won't mind proving it." The table went quiet. For the first time that evening, Armin's smirk faltered. "Proving it," he scoffed, though his eyes flickered with unease. Yes. My voice was steady now, stronger than I felt. Show us the papers, the deed, anything with your name on it. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by the faint crackle of wax dripping onto the tablecloth. My father cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. Armin leaned back, but his laugh was too sharp, too forced. You don't need papers when everyone already knows, he said. Everyone. I let the word echo. They had always been everyone together. My parents, my brother, my relatives, and me. I was the outsider in my own bloodline, but not anymore. I sipped my drink slowly, pretending to accept his answer, though inside me, plans began to take shape. My brother was careless. He always had been. He relied on charm, on arrogance, on people folding to his confidence. But he left trails, debts, lies, weaknesses. I knew them all. When the dinner ended, I excused myself with a calmness that surprised even me. My heart was pounding, but my steps were measured. I kissed my mother's cheek, hugged my aunt, even patted my father's shoulder. Armin smirked as he left, certain he had crushed me. What he didn't see was the fire in my eyes once the door closed. I went straight to my study. The house was dark, but the glow of my desk lamp lit up the files I kept neatly stacked. Bank statements, receipts, proof of every payment I had ever made for this house. I touched the folder like it was a weapon, because it was. As I flipped through each document, anger hardened into clarity. He wanted my home, but I had something he never expected. Evidence. Evidence that could tear his smug lies apart. Still, evidence alone wasn't enough. No, I wanted more. I wanted him humiliated, exposed in front of the same people who always shielded him. I wanted them to finally see who he really was. So I started writing names. Lawyers, neighbors who had seen me sign papers, even the old banker who still remembered my tears the day I got my approval letter. Piece by piece, I began building a net strong enough to strangle every lie Armand had told. And yet, it wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about years of being overlooked. It was about every time they chose him. This wasn't only revenge, this was reclamation. By the time I shut the folder, the plan was already alive inside me. I would give Armin exactly what he wanted. A stage. And when the lights hit him, the truth would tear him apart. But first, I had to lure him in, and that chance came sooner than I expected. The next morning, I brewed coffee and sat at the kitchen table like it was any ordinary day. But inside, I was electrified. Every breath, every thought was laced with sharp focus. Armin thought he had silenced me at dinner. He had no idea he'd just given me the perfect excuse to strike back. I started with the lawyer who helped me buy this house. His number was still in my phone, tucked under Mr. R. I explained everything. Armin's claim, my parents' silence, the humiliation. Mr. R. listened quietly before chuckling dryly. "Paper speaks louder than mouths," he said. "Bring your documents. We'll make sure no one can touch your home." That sentence alone gave me a rush of power. For the first time since last night, I felt the weight in my chest lift. I gathered every receipt, every bank transfer, every signature. I wasn't just protecting myself anymore. I was building an arsenal. Because this wasn't just about legality. It was about making sure Armand never dared to steal from me again. By noon, I called my aunt, the only one who had tried, however weakly, to calm him. I told her sweetly that I wanted to host another dinner the following weekend. A celebration, I lied, my voice syrupy. If the house is truly Armin's, let's honor the new owner. She hesitated, but then agreed. The perfect trap was set. That entire week, I rehearsed in silence. By day, I went about my work as though nothing had changed. By night, I studied every document, every angle. I knew Armin would arrive cocky, unprepared. That was his nature. Arrogance first, proof never. And I was ready to turn that arrogance into his downfall. On Thursday, I made one more call. To the banker who had approved my mortgage years ago, he still remembered me. Of course I remember, dear. You cried when you signed the papers. That house was your dream. Yes, I thought, and no one steals dreams from me. The day of the dinner came again. I dressed simply, not like a warrior, but like a hostess. The smell of roasted chicken filled the air. The table gleamed. When my family arrived, I greeted them warmly, even Armin, especially Armin. His grin was wide, triumphant, as if he had already won. He had no idea. The candles burned low, casting shadows. I raised my glass and said, "Tonight we celebrate clarity." Armin laughed, raising his own glass. "Finally admitting defeat, sister?" I smiled, my heart steady, my folder resting under the table by my feet. He had no idea what was about to be revealed, and when it was, nothing would ever be the same again. Because tonight I wouldn't just defend myself, I would expose him. And the moment came faster than I expected.